Hi Carla. Thanks for meeting with me over coffee and working with me to take positive climate action via the development of our employee YouTube channel and program series. You're welcome. It will be great to work with you. What's on your mind about program series ideas that make sense for taking effective climate action over YouTube? Well, for starters, these folks at Project Drawdown have produced an excellent 6-unit series on YouTube. It's called Climate Solutions 101. We can use this series to bring folks up to speed quickly. Great. What does Project Drawdown's YouTube series cover? Well, Unit 1, called Setting the Stage, focuses on how we got to this moment in the history of climate change, and when and how climate solutions got started in the first place. Nice. Yes, and then Unit 2, called Stopping Climate Change, focuses on how to stop it by achieving what we are now calling drawdown. And it's a major challenge, because everything's connected and impacted by climate change disruption, the extreme weather we've been experiencing, the drought, the starvation and death, the more frequent and more massive hurricanes, destruction and flooding, the raging wildfires, the impact on our life-sustaining water supply, our food, the very air we breathe, the mass migration we're seeing, the threat of civil unrest and war, the threat to our security, to our health and to our livelihoods, the impact on the entire world's global economy, and the troubling catastrophic threat to all species life on Earth if we pass critical global warming tipping point thresholds. Wow! It's a huge climate change challenge, isn't it? Yes, it is, but it's simultaneously a huge climate action opportunity when we address it with right thinking and right action. And that's right where Unit 3, called Reducing Sources, comes in. So what exactly are these sources of carbon that we need to draw down? Okay. What's great about Unit 3 is that it describes each carbon source, and it breaks down the percentage of its carbon emission, sector by sector. So you can see what the climate change challenge is. And, implicitly, what the climate action opportunity is. And believe me when I tell you that front-running entrepreneurs are already jumping on a virtual myriad of business opportunities. Multiple climate change challenges are actually a virtual cornucopia of climate action opportunities, in each and every sector. Project Drawdown's website drawdown.org lists over 80 categories of climate solutions that need to be better known, liked, trusted, tried, bought again and recommended, possibly and preferably at a world-class, big reach, near zero carbon footprint virtual conference and trade show, now coming together, that could even include a new careers job fair. Victoria Brown, Vice President of Business Solutions of New World Communications, has been continually updating me and bringing me up to speed on progress being made via their mobilization campaign. Awesome. So what are the climate action sector opportunities that entrepreneurs are jumping on? Great. The electricity sector, still fueled primarily by coal and natural gas-fired power plants, makes up a whopping 25% of global warming carbon emissions. Then there's the combined food, agriculture, and land use sector, which accounts for another whopping 24% of carbon emissions. When viewed together, these two major sectors contribute to almost half of the global sources of carbon today. Yes. I am thinking about all the folks I know who could benefit by getting in front of all the opportunity that continues to unfold, people from all walks of life, people from every community, across generations, across genders, across the planet. This is potentially a huge diverse, equity-creating opportunity that could include us all. Tell me more. Gladly. Another huge opportunity is the industry sector, which involves all the carbon-intensive processes having to do with making stuff. We're talking about all the steel, the cement, the plastics, as well as all the waste that needs to be managed better, which accounts for another whopping 21% of carbon being emitted that needs to be drawn down. I can literally see gigatons of drawdown opportunity for a whole lot of people in the industry sector. Tell me more. Yes. And then there's the transportation sector that moves people and goods around. Transportation accounts for another 14% of climate-changing emissions. And it's directly related to the building sector that accounts for another 6%. When viewed together, they account for a whopping 20%. Now here's a most provocative thought. Besides retrofitting physical world buildings so they emit less carbon, what if, also, some of the building architecture we worked inside of was virtual architecture? And what if all you had to do, to get there and get back from the convenience of your own home, was to log on and off? Wow, Lizzie. You're blowing my mind. Now you've got me thinking about all the women and families I know, including myself and my own family, either paying for childcare in order to fight traffic just to get back and forth to my physical world building, and to my oftentimes dysfunctional and unhealthy office work environment where I'm actually less productive. And just think of all of us moms having to stay at home to care for our kids, and being without enough income to even make ends meet. Some of us could work more productively right from home. Physical world buildings and physical world transportation are not as good as it gets. Yes. Just thinking about the opportunity here is worthy of more exploration. And come to think of it, we've already been meeting inside of Zoom, which is virtual architecture. What about the idea of getting ABC Corp to consider migrating over to using more ultra-affordable and ultra-eco-friendly big reach virtual architecture? And what about the idea of getting ABC Corporation to consider using less costly physical world architecture it's having to pay for? Think about all the good this potentially does for ABC Corporation employees, for its global operation, and for its overall bottom line profitability. Wow. And talking about profitability, or lack of it, I just got a flash insight about all the time, money, and energy ABC Corporation spends by sending whole armies of its people to third-party physical world conference and trade show events across the planet. There is the huge cost of all the airfare, all the hotel and all the per diem cost for each person, and then there's the cost of shipping the booth around, setting it up, and paying for all the exhibitor services. There is the booth, the electricity to it, and the connectivity. So what about the idea of doing all this virtually? Think about all the time, money, and energy ABC would save and gain. It's not only great for ABC's enterprise-wide business operation, but it's also great for our planet. Yes, and then there's all those costly annual sales meetings that ABC Corporation does physically, year after year, flying in people from all over the world, putting them up in hotels, and paying for all the per diem cost. Focusing on drawing down carbon in buildings and transportation by doing some of ABC's business operation virtually could do a world of good, and it's worth communicating about. Yes. Using more virtual architecture that we could easily get back and forth to, just by logging on and off, could potentially do a world of good in multiple ways. But people are also creatures of habit and love their own carbon-intensive ways even when they are costing us so much. I can see us getting a whole lot of pushback here. How do we deal with that? Well, I think the solution to this has to do with consulting with frontrunners like New World Communications and their virtual enterprise development services. I just watched their CEO Art Johnson in his virtual office, during a tour of his new virtual office suite as his virtual avatar self on Virbela. It's worth checking out. Wow. This virtual buildings and transportation thing potentially could do a world of good. I think the way to go about it is to introduce the experience gradually, step by step, as frontrunners like New World Communications continue to move forward with it. The pandemic also has been blasting us forward over Zoom into a new normal. How about that? Yes. The pandemic, and this new normal, made us all work differently, and more creatively, and that's a good thing, fostering outside-the-box thinking and action. Now let me tell you about Units 4, 5, and 6. Great. Tell me more. What is Unit 4 about? And what's the opportunity here? Well, Unit 4 is about supporting carbon sinks, and it has to do with supporting nature's own natural carbon cycle. Carbon sinks are our forests, oceans, and land formations such as peat bogs and mangroves. They are called natural carbon sinks because they naturally draw down carbon. That is, when they are healthy, and when the natural carbon cycle is in balance. But the world's scientists have been telling us that world's natural carbon cycle is currently out of whack because we haven't understood and appreciated nature and our natural resources and ecology situation all that well. So the opportunity here would be to get more folks into the outdoors to experience and appreciate the joy, beauty, and intelligence of these natural carbon sinks firsthand. We need to get folks of all ages, and from all communities, walking in the woods and getting on the water to experience this firsthand. So by doing this we can all become environmental stewards, supporting and protecting these natural carbon sinks in smart ways. Yes, there are some pretty bright people we could have on as guests on our YouTube show, discussing their work and its importance environmentally and ecologically. Some could even log in from the field over Zoom. Great. We could end up with some really great YouTube content shot outdoors that communicates well what supporting carbon sinks could mean for the world. So what is Unit 5 about, and how might we leverage it? Well, in Unit 5, Project Drawdown's Dr. John Foley goes over 3 important logical principles for addressing climate change as both challenge and opportunity. Principle 1 starts by reducing the sources of emissions in the first place. Then Principle 2 is to work with nature to support sinks, and then Principle 3 is about improving society and fostering equality that can have a lot of impact across the whole planet. Great. I'm in, especially when it comes to actively pursuing climate justice for low-income communities and communities of color. These communities are being disproportionately impacted health-wise and wealth-wise, locally, regionally, and across the planet. This is going to be some really exciting, transformative work. So what's Unit 6 about? Unit 6 is called Making It Happen. Making it happen brings home the point that now that we have climate solutions that can draw down carbon, we've now got to put them out in the world. We can have our audiences learn a lot from Project Drawdown's great Climate Solutions 101 curriculum, but we need to effectively communicate to more people that it's not too late to stop climate change. We have enough solutions right at our fingertips to solve our climate problems. We simply have to put them out in the world. And we need to remember that these solutions are not only good for us, but that they make for even a better, more diverse, more equitable, and inclusive world. So ours is going to be one awesome YouTube channel indeed. And we can make it happen.